welcome back to YouTube. We're doing my hamstring session today. We're going to go through programming. I know that we touched last time on how to manipulate training if you are obviously training for different classes. Today we're going to basically go over my programming, why in which we do certain things for my days, and how you can incorporate that thought process into building your own program. So hopefully it helps. Today we have the hamstring day, like I just said. Obviously I was doing and running the RDL. We have since changed that. So today is my first day doing SLDL, which I'm really excited for, to be fair. Haven't ran an SLDL since, I guess, during prep I ran it, but I lifted it up a little, as in I put some bumper plates underneath my plates just to raise it a little, just to make it a little bit less taxing on the CNS, so that I could still do a hip hinge whilst in prep, but just obviously because I am performance based and I get stressed out if my numbers go down, which we'll touch on that throughout this session. We've decided to, that's why we did that in prep. I haven't ran a proper SLDL since last off season, so that's what we're going to do from today. So I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do in terms of building it up. I don't remember what my last year's numbers were. I think that it was 3.5 plates for a certain amount. I can't remember. I'll have to have a look back through on my videos. So hopefully we can build that up from here and see how we go. We've got the adductors here. We're focusing on keeping our chest nice and tall, core locked tight, hips back a little bit, just to try and disengage the core just a little. Because if you actually crunch down a little bit too much, you do tend to throw it. And obviously you don't want to do that. It's more of an isolation movement than a compound. So make sure that it is keeping your toes slightly turned out, dragging your adductors together and slowly bringing them back out. Thank you.
You're not just moving your tendon.
Can you get it, please? Oh, my hips. If you're like me, and obviously you've got a movement that's stalled a little, don't be afraid to swap it for a like-for-like movement, because obviously you don't want to be changing every 2 weeks, etc. That normally means that there's been a breakdown in the chain at some point where you probably tried to take too much load too quickly. So slow build up over time, like mine's taken 28 weeks to get to that point. You can definitely do that over time. When it comes to swapping and changing, if you don't want to change the full setup of your sessions, because things are still very much progressing from a physique perspective and from obviously the rest of the sessions perspective, moving for a like-for-like movement like I have done will obviously keep your sessions moving well, will keep the progress coming in your physique, and it's not really anything that's going to cause too much difference in terms of your session order and stuff. So when I ended my off season last year, yeah, prior to prep where we raised it, I ended on 3.5 plates for 8 or 9. And this time we've obviously got all the way to the floor, added another 5 kilos and got 8. So I'm happy to start. Felt a little bit strange taking it all the way to the floor and resetting, just remembering that it's different to the RDL. So that's where it starts, and now I'll build up from here. But I'm happy. Well, I'm going to look at it first, but I'm happy. When it comes to programming, sometimes you have to emotionally detach yourself a little bit, because you may be given movements that perhaps you don't enjoy, perhaps that you don't think you can do. Like for me personally, back in 2020, when I definitely still used to put too much weight on the bar, I used to think, oh, I'm not built for an SLDL. I really am, it's just that I was loading it too heavy for my musculature, so it broke down a lot. So just make sure that when you do start a movement, give it the time, take it from scratch, build up the weight nicely, and don't give up on something just because you think that it's not going to work for you, because it may do. Hours later. Just kidding, hard body. So easy to put on. When it comes to volume application, obviously my quads are definitely a lot bigger than my glutes and hamstrings. So does that mean that I do not train quads? No. That would be silly, because my quads would definitely downsize. And I don't want my quads to downsize. I don't want them to get lots and lots bigger, but they can get a little bit bigger for my class. So my volume is applied mostly to my glutes and hamstrings across both my leg days. We used to split my leg days where we had predominantly a glute focus day, predominantly a quad focus day. Even my quad focus day, really, the majority of isolation movements, even though my compound lift is very much focused towards my quads, has a lot of volume for my glutes. So make sure that when you are programming that you do it upon your individual needs basis. If you need more volume in certain areas, don't completely disregard all the other areas. Just make sure that the majority of volume is on the bit that you need the most. What a bastard. Lying hamstring curl, walking lunges and hip thrusts. Perfect. Yes.
Good, mate. Come on, stay in. These are the ones. Let's go. Let's go. Show me one. Show me one. Show me one. Stay with it. Stay with it. Yes, 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 yes. That's you, that's you, that's you. Beautiful. Good stuff.
Don't think I had one more. Oh.
3 hours later.
Right, so that's good. The order of your session really does matter. When it comes to the order, obviously it very much depends on you as a person as to what your bias is. For me, in this session, the majority of my work that goes at the beginning are my heaviest compounds. I do have a hip thrust at the end of my session, but because the rep range is high, it's done very slow, very controlled. Not that it's not normally, but I'm not trying to bang on loads of weights because I'm not doing like a 8 to 10 rep range. So the order of the session really does matter. What is it that you're trying to focus on massively? I want to make sure that my performance in the majority of my session is good, but I need to make sure that I'm fresh for my compounds. So I like to do an exercise prior to doing that to get myself warm. I tend to find that doing something like an adductor helps to get my obvious adductors working, gets everything a little bit warmer. So doing that prior to doing my exercise of my first compound really does help get the body kind of ready for it, even from the mental perspective as well. The rest of my session is then exercises that don't create as much kind of, or doesn't need or require as much mental capacity, but still obviously going all out on all of the sets. But the order of session needs to come from a mental perspective. What do you need a high amount of focus for, which is obviously something at the start, because towards the end when fatigue sets in, obviously you aren't going to be as mentally switched on, even though you try to be. And then also, what is your main bias for that session? How many glutes, quads, etc. They need to come at the first part before the things at the end that kind of aren't so much that bias for that session. An order of a session, obviously that leads into why could we possibly have 2 rotations for, say, a push-pull legs. If you've got obviously the need to bring up every area, on a push session you'd have a predominantly chest focused day. On another push session you'd have another shoulder focused day. On back you'd have an upper back focused day and a lat focused day. It works really well to have the 2 rotations if there is a specific focus for area of development. Do you want to put them back? to your programming. It's down to you to apply yourself, to get better, to improve, because your online coach isn't obviously going to be there with you. Obviously, if you've got a PT, they will be when you're PTing, but your other sessions you will not. So it's always down to you to program. For the majority of us, there's people that go by feel as to what they feel like doing on specific days, specific sessions. I think that can possibly work for someone that is 1% genetic elite, or someone that's been training for a really, really, really long time and they don't really have a lot of areas of needing to improve. When you have, and you're not that 1% genetic elite, consistency for the most part will obviously help yield the best results. So stick to your program, do it well, train it hard. There may be times throughout the year where you're joining with a friend session, etc. But for the most part, you're getting down to it, you're staying consistent with it, and you're making sure that you're getting strong as a motherfucker. When it comes to your hip thrusts, if you're like me and find it really infuriating, when you do your warm up and it feels good, then you do your working set, it feels terrible because your feet are in a different position. Mark it out, much like what I do on the Smith squat. I do the same on a hip thrust. I put something where the line of my toes need to be so that I can get myself all set up in my bench, get to work, not have to fiddle around when I'm doing my working set, so that I can literally just get to work and everything feel really great in my glutes. When it comes to programming someone's sessions, obviously one of the biggest things that you have to consider is having enough rest for obviously a good enough amount of recovery for that person. That comes to what do they do for work? How many times a week can they train? How much training can they get away with without completely burning out for that next session? And that comes a little bit through trial and error, to be fair. We'll try one thing, if it doesn't work, another thing can obviously go in place of that. And it will get to a point where you do get it right. Sometimes it happens where you get it right straight away, but sometimes it happens where you may need more volume, you may be able to get away with more sessions, you may need to do less. And the most important thing is communicating and making sure that that recovery protocol through enough rest periods, rest days, etc. is right for you.
My name is Michael and I've been a care worker with Steve for 12 years now. Been brilliant to support him to enjoy a more independent life. So much so that now he's helping others with learning disabilities.
My name is Steve, I'm a coach of
If I go somewhere, he'll not be able to see me. That's the end of my session. Hopefully you've enjoyed the shenanigans. When it comes to programming, regardless of how good your programming is, if you've not got the application, the effort, the intensity and consistency that comes with it, you'll not be able to build the physique that you want to. It requires all those 4 things alongside the program to be able to make sure that you can do what you can do. Don't skip from program to program. Don't go there with just no effort, no focus, no nothing. Go in there with real intent and really give it absolutely everything. But like, share, subscribe, all that lovely stuff. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Let me know if there's anything else that you would like me to obviously cover in the coming videos in the comments below, and we'll see you again for our next episode.